Hello, and welcome to this workshop on Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is an ancient practice that involves a progressive deep relaxation and then planting an affirmation and then a return to consciousness. It usually takes about anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes depending on the type of Yoga Nidra that you're working with. Probably the most important part of Yoga Nidra is the Sankalpa, the affirmation, and quite often that is rushed. It's assumed that you already know what your Sankalpa is, or that you can choose one quickly in the time that you have during the practice itself. So I prefer to help students find their their Sankalpa ahead of time, and then it's usually recommended that you use the same Sankalpa every time for a period of time until you feel like it's beginning to have some effect. It's with repetition, doing Yoga Nidra repeatedly and using the same Sankalpa, that it becomes more powerful. So Yoga Nidra is sometimes called deep sleep or yogic sleep, but at the real heart of it, it's about reprogramming set patterns of consciousness. Okay? So first, let's start with an overview. And we'll start with the idea in yoga of 4 states of consciousness. So they divide it into the 4 following states: wakefulness, okay, and then the dreaming state. As you fall asleep, you move into dreaming. Then deep sleep, and in deep sleep the dreams cease. And then beneath that is what they sometimes call turiya, T-U-R-I-Y-A. It is the underlying state of consciousness beneath everything that supports everything. So in Western science, we have a similar idea, except we define it in terms of brain waves. When the brain waves are really fast, we call it beta. Beta is associated with problem-solving thinking, worrying, anticipating. The mind's really racing. If the mind slows down a little bit into a still fast but a smoother, a little bit slower rhythm called alpha, we associate that with focused creativity. So for instance, someone painting a landscape, looking out at the landscape and painting it, painting what they see. Someone writing is an alpha state. Quite often, if you think about a hobby that you really enjoy, that's an activity that helps you to find that alpha state. In alpha, you physically relax a little bit. Your breath becomes a little smoother, a little slower. But more importantly, you begin to feel a little more connected to life and to everyone. You begin to feel that the reality is a nice place, more contented. So it's a good place to be. Alpha is sometimes we find alpha when we drink alcohol. The alcohol slows down the brain waves. So if you think about after you've had 1 or 2 drinks and you stop worrying about things and you start enjoying being around people, that is the alpha state that you're enjoying. The trouble is the alcohol has a retarding effect to consciousness. So the trick is to get there without dulling the mind through alcohol. Okay. Hey. If the brainwaves slow down even more, okay, we call that theta, and theta is the frequency we associate with dreaming. And then when the brain slows down even further into delta brain waves, the slowest rhythm, we associate that with deep sleep. So if you compare that to the yogic model, it's very similar, except we have beta and alpha are both waking states of consciousness. And in yoga, they lump them together into the one idea of waking consciousness, rather than distinguishing between the two. And then yoga adds another layer beneath everything called the turiya state, this state of witnessing without reacting. Okay? Interesting story, Swami Rama, back in the 70s, came to America, and the Manager Clinic was working with him. They heard that he could do all kinds of amazing things with his mind and with his body, and so they, under clinical conditions, decided to study him. And they asked him to meditate, and in his meditation he was able to demonstrate slowing the brain waves from beta to alpha, and then he slowed them down into a theta, and then he slowed down into a delta state, and the researchers assumed that he had fallen asleep, even though he had told them that yoga meditation is not the same as sleeping. The sleeping's different, but he was still sitting up straight, but his brain was in a deep, slow delta rhythm. So one of the researchers had the idea to test to see whether or not he was actually asleep or meditating. And so over the intercom, they read out a list of grocery items, and they monitored his brain waves, and he didn't react. The indication was that he didn't hear the list, because if he had heard it, there would have been activity in the mind. When you say cabbage, you might have a picture of a green vegetable, round green vegetable, or you might have an image of coleslaw at a restaurant, but something stirs in the mind. And when they read the list out, nothing stirred, nothing moved, he didn't react. And so they pretty much assumed that he was asleep, even though he had said meditation is not sleeping. When they brought him back up and took off all the equipment and the tabs off his head monitoring brain waves, one of them asked, by the way, did you hear anything? And Swamiram was puzzled. He says, well, actually I did. It's a little strange, but someone was reading out a list of grocery items. And not only that, but he remembered all 20. Okay? This was a turning point in Western psychology, because he was able to demonstrate the capacity to become conscious of his environment without reacting. Just this pure witnessing, this turiya beneath deep sleep. He didn't stay at deep sleep, he dropped down beneath that into this turiya state where he was conscious without reacting. Okay? So, probably helpful to understand about the 5 koshas, and these are sometimes referred to as the sheaths. If you think of a Russian nesting doll, the outermost sheath is the physical sheath. Sometimes it's called the food sheath, but it's this physical reality. Okay? Within that, a little bit smaller contained within that, is the prana. So we have the outside sheath is Annamaya, the body. More subtle, within that, we have the pranamaya. Okay? And prana is this life force in maya. And then they'll say kosha. So Annamaya kosha refers to the animal sheath, the body sheath. Pranamaya kosha refers to the energetic sheath, the energy moving through the body. Beneath that we have Manomaya, and that is the senses and the mind. Okay? Now here we're talking, when we talk about the mind, what we're really talking about is the state of consciousness that a giraffe or a gerbil would have. Okay? Or we have it too. Okay? It's a state of the senses and then the mind resting on top of that. Now within that, at deeper level, we have Vishnamaya kosha, and this is, some people used to say it's uniquely human. Now that's being questioned. There are a lot of animals that perhaps have some capacity to exist at this level, but it's a level of intellect and of discernment and of will. And then beneath all of that, at the very center, Anandamaya, the bliss state. So those are the 5 sheaths coming in, okay, or coming out. So let's take a look now at the Sankalpa, about the affirmation, which is what we're going to be using during our Yoga Nidra practice. The affirmation is chosen, not casually, not randomly, but it should be chosen through first recognizing what it is you struggle with and where you have reactions, where you react to life rather than choosing. So yoga has this wonderful idea of a samskara, and the samskara is sometimes described as being like a rut or like a sandbar. So the idea here is that consciousness, if we use the metaphor of a river, consciousness flows, the water flows through the river, and as it flows, if it flows a little bit too fast, it starts to set up these waves, and these waves begin to push down into the sand bed, and this creates a ripple pattern in the sand. And then what's interesting is even after the river starts to flow smoothly again, slows down and flows steady and slow, the ripples in the sand remain. This is one way geologists can tell whether a sandstone came from a riverbed or not, or by moving water, is by studying the shape and the pattern of those sandbars and of the ripples on the sandstone. So that's the idea, only they used it as a metaphor for the mind. And they say when the mind is moving fast and frenetically, it generates these waves. These waves begin to create these samskars, these patterns that are more stubborn. And even when the mind goes still, the pattern is still there. The sandbar is still there, even when the water stops moving. Anyone that has done a lot of meditation and been absolutely calm and happy, and then gone home for Thanksgiving and had your parents push buttons and felt yourself reacting and realizing that you aren't illuminated, okay, that you weren't even close. That's the difference. So we can still the mind, but those patterns, those sandbars are still there. And any time that you get pushed, you can very easily start reacting from that pattern. So one of the problems with trying to make changes in ourself is that these patterns are held at a very deep level. And when we think about the levels of consciousness, these patterns are down beneath the intellectual level. So in terms of the koshas, the sheaths, we can't make the change at the outside level, the body. We can't make it at the pranic level. We can't even make it at the mana level, the mind. We can't even make it at the intellectual level. How many people intellectually know that they should do something or not do something and still struggle? So what the yogis realized was that we have to get beneath the intellectual level to begin to have an effect on the samskars and to change these deeply, deeply held patterns. Intellectual understanding isn't sufficient. We have to go beneath that, and so that is the practice of Yoga Nidra. We, through progressive relaxation and meditation, we see if we can get all the way down closer and closer to a turiya state, and then in the turiya state we plant our sankalpa, our affirmation. Okay? And the idea is that by planting it down beneath the intellect, that then the affirmation, like a little seed, begins to sprout and it grows up through all 5 levels, transforming us. Okay? So as you can see, the sankalpa is actually very important. So then the question is, what is the right sankalpa? And this may take you, you may want to spend a few minutes, you may want to spend a few days thinking about this and working on this. But it's worth taking some time to delve into this more deeply. Okay? So how do we identify what is a good sankalpa, a good affirmation for us personally? And one of the ways that I have worked with, and I find very useful with myself and with students, is to start off by identifying what our triggers are. Where is it that you tend to lose control and become reactive? Even if intellectually you know you shouldn't, you still find yourself reacting. And family can be a very good way of identifying those because we're closed in and they know you really well. Not only that, they know what your triggers are that go back to when you were 3 years old or 5 years old. Okay? And so they can get down to that pre-verbal level even, and by knowing you that well, and quite often they will expose those triggers, those buttons, those sandbars, samskaras. They know how to play those without even knowing what they're doing or why they're doing it. Quite often they can feed into that. So, if you think about something in some way you get triggered. Okay? We've got this complex little thing that happens. Let's take one example. I'll just make up a story. Imagine that you're 5 years old and you're the youngest of 3 kids, and you are walking by the kitchen and you happen to hear your parents talking. And one of your parents, they're looking at their bills and they're budgeting and they're coming up short on money and they're frustrated and they're exhausted. And one of your parents says in exasperation, "I wish we'd stopped with 2 kids." Okay? Absolutely oblivious to the fact that you overheard that. Okay? And then you take that away with you and you begin to sit with that. And the story you tell becomes important. So we have the event, but then we have the story we make up about it. Okay? So imagine you make up the story, having heard your parents say, "I wish we'd stopped with 2 kids." You make up the story that your parents don't love you. Okay? And then from that, it's very easy to make up a new story over time that you must be unlovable. If your parents don't love you, you must be unlovable. And then that story begins to take root. Okay? It could be a different story. It could be that you're lazy, or it could be that you don't have control. There's 10,000 different ideas that can take root. But imagine that your idea that you've taken root in is that you are unlovable. Now, what happens as you go through life? Well, you've got that sandbar now, and when water starts flowing, it hits that sandbar and it causes the water to bounce. And then the bouncing water makes the sandbar bigger. The bigger sandbar makes the water bounce harder, and this builds up every time. Every time that samskara gets hit, it grows. Gets hit again, it grows bigger. Imagine 20 years later, you're in college, or out of college, and you see your 2 best friends sitting in a restaurant having lunch, and you weren't invited. Okay? Well, if you already have that samskara that you are unlovable, what story do you tell about what you just saw? It's very easy to tell the story to yourself that they don't like you and that they went out of their way to have some time in your absence. Okay? So again, this feedback loop starts existing. You see things, and everything you see you filter through that samskara, making the samskara bigger and stronger, more tenacious, more powerful, and we get into a deep rut. Is there alternative stories that you could tell about what you saw in the restaurant? Yes. They could be planning a surprise birthday party for you. There's 10,000 different stories that could explain what you just saw. So we tend to tell the story that supports the Sankalpa. So how do we break out of this? Well, quite often when you ask people intellectually, do you really believe that you're unlovable? They'll say no. And yet, the problem is still there beneath the surface. In certain circumstances, they still retreat back into that 2-year-old feeling alone and unloved. And the intellect seems to be powerless to do anything about that. So, once you've identified what your core issue is, okay, and you may have more than one, most of us do, but you figure out what is the most important, what's the deepest, what is the one that's having the most negative effects on your life. Once you've identified it, now you're ready to create your Sankalpa. Okay? So the Sankalpa has a few attributes. One of them is that the Sankalpa is always positive. It's always stated in the present tense, and it's stated as if it's an accomplished fact, and it's stated with authority. Okay? And it's really interesting, 1,000 years ago, these practices are being developed, and now modern psychology has come to the same conclusion. The brain doesn't distinguish between past and future in certain ways, and by stating in the present moment, it's more powerful effect on the brain. So modern psychology is rediscovering these ideas from yoga. So it is positive, it's in the present tense, and it's stated with power and authority. And then in the Yoga Nidra, we like to then link it back to the Turiya state, bliss, nirvana. Okay? So, give you an example with the example we're using, I feel unlovable, okay, or I am unlovable. Then I create my Sankalpa to try and erase that samskar, that sandbar, to try and smooth it out a little bit. So my Sankalpa could be along the following lines. I am lovable. Okay. Then I link it to the Turiya state by saying, I am lovable because I am pure love. If my problem was feeling lazy and tired and depressed, I might say, for my Sankalpa, I might say, I am full of energy, life, and vigor because I am pure love. Okay. If my problem is anger, I might say, I am calm, relaxed, and forgiving because I am pure love. Okay. And that's it. That's your Sankalpa. So then the practice of Yoga Nidra. We go through a series of exercises, starting off with just physically getting comfortable, laying down. You want to make sure that you are really, really comfortable because you're going to be there for longer than a typical Shavasana. So you take the time to put a pillow under your knees if you need it, support under your neck, an eye pillow if you want it. Certainly you need to be comfortable in temperature, so maybe putting a blanket over you. Your body temperature will drop a little bit as you relax, and so if you are just barely warm enough, you won't be able to relax completely, so blanket over you can be very helpful. We go through a series starting with kind of a miniature Shavasana exercise, and then we go through some other different stages, including visualization. And then at some point you will be asked to plant or to repeat your Sankalpa, and we do that at two different places during the exercise. We do it at close to the very beginning, okay? And then when we get to the deepest place of relaxation, when we get as close as we can get to the Turiya state, beneath even the deep sleep, then you'll be asked to repeat your Sankalpa 3 more times. And then the final part is the return, and you'll be slowly brought back up to a higher level of consciousness. It is very, very helpful if during the entire exercise you remain still. However, if you get uncomfortable, pretending you aren't isn't going to work. So if you get uncomfortable, go ahead and do what you need to. If you need to roll over or reposition, go ahead and do it. But better is start off in a position so that that won't happen. So I'd like to thank you for joining me for this mini workshop, and if you'll stay tuned, we'll try our hand at doing a Yoga Nidra experiential session next. Namaste. Welcome to our yoga class. This will be a shorter class than usual, about 35 minutes long, and it'll be followed by a Yoga Nidra practice, which is a deep guided relaxation that will be about 35 minutes long as well. Bring your hands together over your heart. Namaste. Make sure you're seated comfortably. And we'll begin relaxing the face, the eyes, the lips, the tongue, the cheeks. Breathing diaphragmatically, taking the breath down deep into the lower abdomen. And very gently, delicately begin to float your head to the left or to the right. Not trying to stretch or strain, just creating a more subtle, delicate sensation, moving those sensations through the neck. And as you do that, focus with each exhalation on relaxing. Stretching the exhale into a sigh. And coming back to center, rolling out the shoulders, especially feeling the shoulder blades moving around. And then we'll open into our first twist, leading with the left shoulder blade. Draw the left shoulder blade up, draw it around, and then draw it into the spine, draw it down the back, lift the heart. Cross the right hand over the left knee. Lift, expand, rotate, and then breathing into that position with a complete breath. And coming back to center. Initiating the movement from the right shoulder blade, drawing the right shoulder blade around and down, lifting and expanding the chest. Crossing the left hand over the right knee, lifting, rotating, and then breathing into the twisted position deeply. One more breath. And coming back to center. And now undulating with the rib cage, rolling the ribs around in a big circle, first one direction and then reversing the direction, and again rolling out the shoulder blades. And coming into a side stretch. Take your left fingertips to the floor, float the right arm overhead. Try to stretch through the right side of the torso without collapsing the left side. Lift through the left collarbone even as you flare the right rib cage. Run the right shoulder back, the chest forward and up. Take a breath or two. And then switch sides, taking your right fingertips to the floor, float the left arm overhead. Flare the left side of the rib cage, and then breathing into this position with a nice, firm, deep breath. Keep lifting through the right collarbone, even as you stretch the left rib cage. Keep drawing back on the left shoulder, forward and up on the chest. Coming back to center, and once again undulating with the rib cage, rolling the ribs one direction and then in the opposite direction, releasing any tension, letting the vertebra realign, rolling out the shoulder blades. And then coming to your hands and knees and practicing with cat-cow. Coordinate the movement with the breath. Start the movement from the tailbone, finish with the head. On the exhale, tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin, and then lift the tailbone, open the chest, look up on the inhale. moving with your own rhythm of breathing. Taking a couple more breaths in cat-cow. And then coming back to table. Now improvising with cat-cow. Reposition your hands, moving one hand off the sticky mat. Experiment with rotating internally or externally, bending the elbows, flaring the ribs. Feel your way around, looking for healthy, pleasant sensations, leaning into those. Continuing to breathe consciously, deliberately. Every 2 or 3 breaths, try a new variation in positioning of the hands. And then coming back to center. Float the left leg back and lift the thigh, engaging the back muscles. Opening the chest, looking up, breathing into that. And then setting the knee down, round the back, exhale. Come back to neutral. Float the right leg back and up. You can experiment with aligning the pelvis to get maximum healthy sensations in the back muscles. As you lift the leg, look up, roll the shoulders back, open the chest, and then set the knee down, round the back, exhale, and come back to neutral. Couple of cat-cows to release tension. And then adding an arm lift, left leg, right arm. Curl towards fetal on the exhale, expand and lift on the inhale 2 more times. 1 more repetition. Set the knee down, round the back, exhale. Come back to neutral. Repeat on the second side, right leg, left arm. Curl towards fetal as you breathe out, expand and lift as you breathe in. Try to lift in a way that feels healthy. 1 more repetition. And then coming back to table. Cat-cow to release and restore symmetry through the spine. And then widening the knees, sinking the hips back, walking the hands out in front of you, extended child's pose. Any version or variation that is more comfortable to you is perfectly acceptable. Back to table, and then tuck your toes under, walk your hands in close to the knees, lift the knees off the ground, coming up into a standing position. Standing in Tadasana, bring your hands together over the heart, and then float the arms overhead, and then releasing into a forward bend. Roll up, buckle the knees, float the arms overhead as you breathe in, release into the forward bend on the exhale. Vini Yoga Sun Salutation. If you have any discomfort or any awkwardness, especially in the low back, Don't come down as far, or support weight with your hands on your thighs. With the overhead stretch, bring up a little warrior energy, chest forward and lifting, shoulders back and down. With each forward bend, surrendering, releasing, hanging into the forward bend. Back to center. Notice your breath. Float the arms overhead. Lift the right heel, flare the left rib cage. And then switch sides, lift the left heel, flare the right side of the rib cage. Try to create a pleasant, healthy stretching sensation on one side and then on the opposite side. Going side to side at your own speed. And then a very delicate back bend, lifting the heart and then releasing into a supported forward bend, hand on thighs. The back is straight, the legs are fairly straight, but the knees are slightly bent. You can either continue to stay a little higher, supporting weight with your hands, or lean into a deeper stretch. And then when you're ready, roll up, buckle the knees, stack the vertebra, bring your hands to prayer position. 12-step sun salutation, sweep up on the inhale. Release into a forward bend on the exhale. Stepping back with the right foot into a deep lunge. Breathe in as you open the chest, looking up. Hold your breath momentarily as you step back into plank. Try to keep your elbows tucked in and keep your hips slightly higher than the chest as you come down to the floor, and then draw through into Cobra, rolling the shoulders back, reaching the chest forward, pressing the tops of the feet into the floor. Downward facing dog, fingers spread wide, shoulder width apart, reach the hips away, lift the tailbone, root through the heels, broaden the upper back. Set the left knee on the floor, step the right foot up into a big lunge, breathe in. On the exhale, step the left foot up into a standing forward bend. Roll up, or if you prefer, hinge up into an overhead stretch on the inhale, coming back to center on the exhale. Release the arms as you exhale. Float the arms up on the inhale, forward bend on the exhale. This time leading with the left foot, stepping back into a big lunge. Follow with the right leg, stepping back into plank. Pressing down slowly with control, drawing through into Cobra, rolling the shoulders back, reaching the chest forward, and then pressing back into downward facing dog. Set the right knee down, lift the left hand, step the left foot through, big lunge on the inhale, standing forward bend on the exhale. Overhead stretch on the inhale, and coming back to prayer. Next we'll be practicing Trikanasana, triangle pose, stepping the feet wide, turn the right foot out at 90 degrees, left foot in at 60. Spiral the right leg if you know how, rooting through the ball of the big toe, drawing up and externally rotating the thigh. Lengthen through the right side of the rib cage. Keep the shoulders broad, the chest open. Control the stretch from the hips, reaching the hips to the left, tilting the pelvis, drawing a healthy, pleasant stretch into the back of the right leg. making sure any sensation is in the belly of the muscle, not the fascia or the ligaments behind the knee. If you feel it behind the knee, bend the right knee just enough to keep the stretch out of that area. Keep the breath moving smooth and steady, and when you're ready, transition to the second side. Turn the left foot out, turn the right foot in. Draw the hips to the right, tilt the pelvis, lengthen the lower rib cage, roll the shoulders back, open the heart. Breathing deep and steady. Again, spiraling the left leg, rooting through the ball of the big toe, front inner corner of the heel, drawing up and externally rotating the upper left thigh to create the spiral, reaching the hips away, tilting the pelvis. When you're finished, come into a forward bend, feet spread wide, turn pigeon-toed, hang into the forward bend, lean a little left, little right. And then step the feet together and roll back up to standing. Coming to the front of your mat in Tadasana, Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. When you're ready, step the left leg back into a deep lunge. Rotate the hips to face forward. If the hips are tight, let your back heel come off the ground so you can fully rotate the hips. Draw the navel in, draw the chest back and up, float the arms overhead. The back leg is strong. If you glance down at the right knee, the center of the kneecap should be aligned with the second toe. Keep the breath smooth and steady, and when you're ready, step up to the front of your mat. Repeating on the second side, sweep into an overhead stretch on your inhale. Stepping the right leg back into a deep lunge, rotating your hips to face forward, sinking into the lunge slightly, keeping the back leg straight and strong. If you glance down, the left knee should be aligned with the second toe. Draw the navel back, lift the chest up, draw the shoulder blades back and down. Breathing into this strong Virabhadrasana 1. And then releasing into a forward bend. And then coming back to Tadasana and practicing tree pose. Spread the toes on the left foot, shift your weight to the left, float the right foot off the ground, placing the foot either at the ankle or bringing the heel up to the groin. The arms can be extended out horizontal or directly overhead if you feel secure in your balance. Try to relax into this balance pose. Keep the breath steady. Use the exhale to calm the nervous system and the mind, and to relax the body. Slowly, smoothly, transitioning to the second side. Spread the toes on the right foot, shift your weight to the right. If you're feeling a little unsteady, keep the big toe on the ground. If you feel stable, float the left foot off the ground, placing it at the calf or bringing the heel up to the groin. Again, the arms horizontal if you're feeling unsteady. Floating the arms overhead if you need more of a challenge. Make use of the exhale to relax, to steady the mind, to relax the body. Take another breath, and then slowly, smoothly, deliberately coming back down. We'll be working next with the back roll. If you have a roller handy, take a moment to bring that to your mat. If not, you can roll up a blanket. Start with the blanket folded long and thin, and then roll it tightly, squeezing the air out of it. You can adjust the intensity by rolling the blanket up thicker or unrolling it. Make sure that whatever size roller you're using is comfortable and that you can relax into this rather than tensing and straining. We'll be starting with the roller in the upper back. If you need more challenge and you have a block handy, you can stack your blanket on top of the block. And we'll take about 4 minutes to work our way down the length of the spine. Positioning yourself, laying on your back with the roller underneath the lower shoulders or middle of the shoulder blades. If this is a little intense, you can support the head with a block or a blanket. On the other hand, if you need more stretch, just push the block to one side. Focus on breathing and relaxing. And after every 3 or 4 breaths, reposition, using your legs to push yourself over the roller so the roller works its way down into the middle of the back and eventually into the lower back. We'll take about 3 more minutes. In each position, breathing and relaxing. If it gets a little too easy, roll your blanket up thicker. On the other hand, if you hit a problem area, unroll the blanket enough that you can relax and then continue working your way down the spine, 1 vertebra at a time. Couple more minutes. Ten or 15 more breaths. If you finish a little early, go back to a favorite position. If you're moving more slowly, take a few more breaths to finish up. When you're finished, be sure not to try and sit up. Instead, bend the knees, lift the hips, and then with your hands remove the roller. Set the hips down, and then draw the knees into your chest, rock side to side. And then coming around onto your hands and knees for cat-cow. Take a breath or two in cat-cow. And then when you're ready, begin transitioning into downward facing dog. Spread the fingers wide, tuck the toes under, lift the knees, reach the hips back and up. If the hamstrings are tight, keep the knees bent slightly. Draw the chest through towards your feet, float your shoulder blades away from the feet. Rooting down through the heels, lifting up through the tailbone, lengthening through the spine. Working the pose for another breath or two. Looking for the perfect moment to transition into Cobra. Any version of Cobra, locust, boat, or bow is fine. If you aren't sure, Cobra is a nice default pose. Plant the hands well behind the shoulders, shrug the shoulders, roll the shoulders back, press the tops of the feet down. Reach the chest forward, draw the shoulder blades together and down the back, engaging the muscles in the back of the body and breathing into that. This is our last work for the back muscles. Give yourself just what you need so that you'll be ready to relax more deeply in a few minutes when we move into Yoga Nidra. Then transitioning into downward dog. This will be our last down dog and your last chance to work. When you are ready to slow down, bring the right knee forward for pigeon pose. Slide the left leg back and to the right to make it more intense. Walk it to the left and forward to make it easier. Start with a gentle stretch. Take a breath or two. Notice how the muscles are responding and then decide whether to back off a little or perhaps to push a little deeper. Breathe deep, and with each exhalation, surrendering into the stretch with a sigh. When you're ready, we'll be transitioning to the second side. Step back into downward facing dog. Take a breath or two. When you're ready, draw the left knee through, set the knee on the floor, slide the right leg back, again adjusting. If you want to make it a little easier, walk the right leg to the right and forward. If you need a deeper stretch, slide the right leg back into the left. As always, start with a gentle stretch, relax, and then decide whether to go deeper or whether to ease up and be more patient. Slowing down the exhale will have a calming effect on the muscles and on the nervous system. When you're ready, push back into one final downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths here. We'll be finishing the Asana portion of this class with a reclining spinal twist. When you're ready, come onto your back, draw the knees to your chest, and either keep both knees bent or straighten the left leg and draw the right knee into your chest. Either variation is fine. Roll your legs to the left, turn your upper body to the right. Experiment with your right arm, finding a position that feels comfortable. If you have some shoulder discomfort, you can support the shoulder with a pillow under it or place your hand on your heart. Practice with a complete breath, feeling the shoulder rise as you breathe in, relaxing into the exhale. Take another breath or two, and when you're ready, cross over to the second side, drawing both knees or your left knee into your chest and rolling the legs to the right, turning your upper body back to the left. Create a gentle, pleasant stretching sensation through the twist, and then breathe into that. Take another breath or two, and when you're finished, hug both knees to your chest and rock side to side, releasing any tension from the low back, and then coming into a comfortable Shavasana position. It is time for Yoga Nidra. You should be lying on your back with the knees slightly bent and supported. Make sure that you are warm enough and that your position is one that will be comfortable for the duration of the practice. It is best that you remain still during Yoga Nidra so that both your body and brain have a chance to fully relax. However, if you become uncomfortable, please feel free to change position. Allow your eyes to close and keep them closed until the practice has ended. The practice of Yoga Nidra is a practice of yogic sleep that will guide you to the hypnagogic state, a state of consciousness between wakefulness and sleeping. Try to remain awake by listening to the sound of my voice. You'll be asked to move your awareness to various bodily sensations, emotions, and images. Try not to concentrate too intensely, as this may prevent you from relaxing. During this meditation, please use and absorb what you need in the moment and leave the rest behind. If the mind becomes overactive with thoughts and worries, just come back to the sound of my voice. We'll start with relaxation. Become aware of any sounds that you can hear in this moment. Nothing else but what you can hear without strain. Begin to focus on the most distant sounds that you can hear. Let your sense of hearing radiate outwards, searching out these distant sounds and following them for a few moments. Move your attention from sound to sound without labeling the source. Gradually bring your attention to closer sounds, to sounds outside of this building, to sounds inside the building, to sounds inside of this room. Without opening your eyes, visualize the four walls of this room, the ceiling, the floor, your body lying on the floor. Visualize your body lying on the floor, the position of your body, your clothes, your hair, your face. Become acutely aware of the existence of your physical body lying on the floor. Now we will practice awareness of breath. Become aware of your natural breath. Become aware of your natural and spontaneous breath that moves in and out of your body without any effort. The natural breath flows in through both nostrils. Notice the feeling of the breath as it comes in and out of your nostrils. There is a sense of coolness as you inhale the breath. Following this feeling into your nose, your sinuses, the back of your throat, into your lungs. There's a sense of warmth as you exhale the breath. Feel this warmth on your upper lip as you breathe out. The natural breath flows through both the nostrils during the inhale and the exhale. Allow your breath to become longer and slower. Take a long, slow inhalation followed by a longer, slower exhalation. As your breath becomes slower, notice the slight pause after the exhale. A slow inhale, followed by a slower exhale, and a pause. Feel the urge to breathe in, bubble up inside of you, without resistance. When you feel the need to inhale, please do so. A long, slow inhale, longer, slower exhale, and then another pause, where the body is neither breathing in nor out. Make sure this pause is natural, not forced. Make sure you're breathing in a way that promotes a deeper state of relaxation. Take 3 more controlled breaths, deliberately slowing down the inhale, slowing down the exhale, pausing. And then relaxing back into the natural, easy breath, releasing any control over the inhale or the exhale. Now we will introduce the Sankalpa, the affirmation. The practice of Yoga Nidra begins now. At this moment, you should make your Sankalpa or your resolution. Remember, the Sankalpa should be a short, positive statement in simple language. Your Sankalpa should be phrased in the present tense as an accomplished fact and stated with authority, and then linked to the Turiya state. For example, you could say, I am loved because I am pure love. Or you could say, I am powerful because I am pure love. Choose your Sankalpa and then state it clearly and with awareness 3 times. The Sankalpa you make during Yoga Nidra plants a seed in the fertile soil of the mind to bring about transformation and healing. Say to yourself, I am practicing Yoga Nidra. I am awake and relaxed. Now we begin the rotation of consciousness, a systematic journey of sensory awareness throughout the body. You will move your awareness to different parts of your body as soon as you hear them named. Please say the name of the part to yourself silently and feel that part of your body, but do not move any part. The practice begins on your right side. Right hand thumb. Second finger. Third finger. Fourth finger. Fifth finger. Palm of the hand. Back of the hand. Wrist. Forearm. Elbow. Upper arm. Shoulder. Armpit. Waist. Hip. Thigh. Knee. Calf. Ankle. Heel. Sole of the foot. Top of the foot. Right big toe. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. Fifth toe. Left hand thumb. Second finger. Third finger. Fourth finger. Fifth finger. The palm of your hand. The back of your hand. Wrist. Forearm. Elbow. upper arm, shoulder, armpit, waist, hip, thigh, knee, calf, ankle, heel, sole of the foot, top of the foot, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, now go to the back of the body where it contacts the floor. Right heel, left heel, right calf, left calf, right thigh, left thigh, right buttock, left buttock, lower back, middle back, upper back, the entire spine, right shoulder blade, left shoulder blade, the back of the neck, the back of the head, the top of the head, forehead, right temple, left temple, right ear, left ear, right eyebrow, left eyebrow, middle of the eyebrows, right eye, left eye, right nostril, left nostril, right cheek, left cheek, upper lip, lower lip, both lips together, chin, jaw, throat, right collarbone, left collarbone, right side of the chest, left side of the chest, upper abdomen, navel, lower abdomen, right groin, left groin, the pelvic floor, the whole right leg, the whole left leg, the whole right arm, the whole left arm, the whole face, the whole head, the whole torso, the whole body, the whole body, the whole body. Now begins the practice of opposite sensations. Lightness and heaviness. First, imagine the whole body becoming light, as though your body could float away from the floor towards the ceiling. The head is light and weightless, the limbs are light and weightless, the torso is light and weightless. The whole body feels light and weightless. You are floating higher and higher away from the floor. Now imagine the body becoming heavier. Feel the heaviness in all parts of the body. Each part is becoming heavier and heavier and heavier. The head is heavy, the limbs are heavy, the torso is heavy. The whole body is heavy, so heavy it is sinking down into the floor. Hot and cold. Awaken the experience of cold in the body. The experience of chilly cold. Imagine being outside in winter without enough clothing. You feel this chill permeating your entire body. Now allow the sensation of warmth to spread throughout the entire body. Remember the feeling of heat in summer, when you are out in the sun with no shade. You feel heat radiating onto your skin, heat radiating through and around the body. Anxiety and calm. Recollect the experience of anxiety, intense anxiety and worry. Feel this stress in your mind and body, but do not concentrate on its source. Create the experience of anxiety as clearly as possible. Now, allow the feeling of complete calm to envelop you. Manifest the experience of calm in your entire body, mind, and emotions. You are relaxed and aware. You are completely calm. Rapid image visualization. Begin to concentrate on the space in front of your closed eyelids. Imagine before you a transparent screen, as though you were at the movie theater. The screen is as high and as wide as the eyes can see. Concentrate on this mind screen and become aware of any phenomenon that manifests within it. Colors, patterns, light. Whatever you see is the manifesting state of your mind. Continue your awareness of this space, but do not become involved. Practice detached awareness only. If any subtle images make themselves known, simply notice without directing the images. If thoughts occur, let them come and go, but continue watching the space with detached awareness. I will name a number of different things, and you should envision each of them on the level of emotion, memory, and imagination as best you can. Jump from one image to image as soon as you hear it. Red desert. Full moon. Your reflection in a mirror. Sun shining overhead. Sand dunes. Looking down on cloud tops. A burning candle. Sand castle by the ocean. Seagulls on the wing. Waves on a sandy beach. Imagine yourself laying on the beach. A deserted stretch of beautiful, sandy, warm beach. Feel the sand beneath you supporting your body comfortably. Your feet are laying down towards the ocean, your head a little higher up the beach. And as you relax into the sand, feel where your body contacts the sand. Think of this not as separation, but rather of connection, of merger. Atoms freely move from your body into the sand, from the sand into your body. Water, oxygen. There is no real boundary, no separation. Feel this connection with the sand. Let your sense of self merge with the sand of the beach. Imagine that you yourself are made of sand. Like a sand castle sculpted by a small child and left on the beach for the tide. And as you breathe in, the waves roll up the beach towards your feet, and as you breathe out, the waves slide back down and out to sea. And a particularly large wave washes up over your feet. And feel the sand being swept away as you exhale. The next wave washes up over your calves and your knees. And as you breathe out, feel the sand washing away. The waves rolling up over the thighs, And with each exhalation, your legs dissolve and wash out to sea. The waves coming in from the side, washing up over your hands, the fingers, the palms, dissolving, the forearms, washing out to sea. The arms and even the shoulders. The waves washing up over the pelvis, the buttocks, over the abdomen, the intestines, the kidneys, the pancreas, all dissolving and washing away with the exhale. And the waves continue to come higher up the beach as the tide comes in, washing up over the chest, the shoulders, the collarbones, the back of the neck and the throat. The jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth, especially the eyes, the eyeballs, the eyelids and eyebrows and forehead, the temples soft and hollow, dissolving, washing out to sea, the scalp and the crown, until all that is left is your breathing. And as your body washes away, dissolves and washes out to sea, the breath floats free from the beach, and you float with it, floating higher and higher, and allowing your consciousness to expand. Feel a sense of vast spaciousness and timelessness. It is time to repeat your Sankalpa. Please repeat the same statement made at the beginning of the practice 3 times mentally now. And now it is time to come back. Come back to the sensation of your own breath. Follow the breath back to the body. Listen to the sound of the breath moving in and out, the feeling of breath moving through the nostrils. Maintain awareness of breath and at the same time develop your awareness of your physical body. Your body is relaxed and lying on the floor. Feel the container of your skin and the clothes and the props that are touching you. Notice the heaviness of your body as it rests on the floor, and take your awareness into all the points that are touching the floor. The back of your heels, thighs, buttocks, shoulder blades, arms, hands, and head. Do not open your eyes yet, but visualize the surrounding room. Imagine where you are in the room and the other objects that lie around you. Lie quietly until you are ready to move. Start by taking a deeper breath into the belly and then continuing into the ribs and the chest and the shoulders with a complete yogic breath. And then slowly begin to move your fingers and your toes, taking your time. There's no hurry. And then lazily raising your arms overhead and stretching, opening your mouth and yawning. Arching, twisting, stretching. And then drawing both knees to your chest and rolling to one side. And then press yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Bring your hands together over the heart. Namaste.